Welcome to the journey of chemistry, and we're going to start off right away and talk about the natural cycles and resources that surround us. Brief history of the planet. Well, no one really knows how the Earth was formed, but we can hypothesize that it was a big molten rock, and then suddenly it cooled down, and single cells started to form miraculously out of soups of amino acids. And then after that, single cells became multiple cells, multicellular cells, organisms, and from that you move on to all kinds of weird life forms that we have never experienced before, and then you had plants that had no flowers, and then you went through hot, cold cycles as the planet started to cool down even more. Then all these plants started giving out oxygen and lots of oxygen. Before then it was just full of CO2 and methane. It was maybe an ammonia, so it was pretty smelly back then. And then you get lots of oxygen that's been released from all these grass and plants that had no flowers. And then you get more life, and then more different types of plants and different types of life. And then voila, we got like the planet like we know as today. Really brief history, okay? So moving on from that, what is important for us to know that the planet Earth, life as we know it, is all because of water. Water on this planet is quite amazing. Unlike other planets on this Earth, on this solar system, planet Earth is where water can exist in the solid phase, the liquid phase, and the gas phase. So here we go. Here's the water cycle. So we have a little schematic of the water cycle. And here you have the ocean. That's where most of the water is on our planet. And basically, this water gets heated up, and you will evaporate and go up into the sky. As particles of water start collecting together, they will start condensing. That means they will form like solids and stuff up there. It will start condensing, all right, into clouds. The water vapors will start condensing into clouds. And then it will fall down to Earth by a process called precipitation. That means rainfall. And when it falls down on the planet, it will go into mountains, streams, and rivers, surface runoffs to the oceans. This is what it's called. If it's streams and rivers, it's called a surface runoff. And some of the water will go underground through a process called percolation. So it will go into the ground. And plants absorb all this water, so do us, and we give it back to the water cycle in a process called transpiration. Now, how do people kind of affect water and the water cycle? Well, we trap water because instead of all the water running off to the ocean, we trap water and we divert them to irrigate our crops. All right? Irrigate our crops or use it in our cities. So let me draw a couple of cities and buildings. Right, we irrigate our crops. We also tap into water, this underground water. These underground water are called aquifers. So we tap into this water and we use them for irrigation in terms of plants, farming. We also bottle them to drink water, and we also use them for our living. Okay, that's one type of cycle. Another type of cycle that I would like to talk to you briefly about is the nitrogen cycle. Here, the nitrogen cycle. Right, nitrogen cycle. The nitrogen cycle nitrogen is very important to us because amino acids basically has lots of nitrogen. All right, so here's the nitrogen cycle. So there's lots of nitrogen in the atmosphere, in the air. Up there, in the air, lots of nitrogen in the air. Okay, and nitrogen in the air is very unreactive, so it would not really react until something drastic happens. And one of the ways that nitrogen is converted into something useful because nitrogen by itself is just not useful. To something useful is when lightning and rain happens, big thunderstorms. The lightning will have a lot of energy and it will break into, combine with rainwater and all that stuff and stuff in the atmosphere to form nitrates. Okay? To form nitrates. There you go. And another way that nitrogen is converted to something useful is that when nitrogen is absorbed by the bacteria that exist around particular plants such as legumes, it converts nitrogen into nitrates as well, and that's useful. Humans take nitrogen in the atmosphere, combine it with hydrogen, right? Humans take hydrogen from the atmosphere, combine it with hydrogen to make ammonia and fertilizers. And once we use that, bacteria can process those things to make nitrates. All right? So that's how nitrates are made. Nitrates are super useful. They are easily converted and used up by living stuff. Mainly, they are absorbed by plants. All right? They are absorbed by plants. When plants absorb them, and then when they get fed to cows, the nitrogen moves from the plant to the cows, and when the plant dies, or when cows die, or when cows poop, these nitrogens are converted back to nitrates again, and the cycle kind of continues from then on. There's actually a process when nitrates and get converted to nitrites and go back to the nitrogen that's in the atmosphere, but that's not part of what we want to do right now. So, some simple natural cycles right here. Next time we'll talk about carbon cycles